Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Carolina. If you're new, if you're not, hey, it's been a while. Sorry I'm looking crusty, dusty, but it is what it is. It's like 9 in the morning on a Wednesday, and it's my day off. But I am currently moving, but I had previously made a video updating you guys on what was going on, and I did want to mention and talk about that my dad did pass away. But the video somehow cut off or was not like filming when I thought it was, and so I only got part of that video. So this is gonna be the intro to that video, and then I'm gonna continue with that video. You guys will see. But yes, my dad died in June. My dad passed away from cancer in June of 2025, June 4th, 2025. And so I had made several videos trying to explain and update you guys, but to be honest, like every time that I would start, something about the video I was just like not willing to put up, or I was not ready to put it up yet, I guess, until this year I redid the video. It was like my third try, and I cry, I didn't want to upload the video crying, but that's what it was. That's what it is. Because I cry in every video. But I didn't want to do that. But then I was like, okay, this is the third time doing it and I'm still crying. But I'm not sobbing. Just kind of very emotional. Like always. But anyways, yeah, so basically, I know if you guys have been following me, you guys known that my dad had cancer. He had prostate cancer, stage 4, when it was discovered, or he got diagnosed. And so he left for a period of time to Mexico, thinking that they were gonna, do something about it. My dad, in his desperation, obviously wanted to be cured and get well. So he was trying everything that he could. Then came back here, started treatment, and underwent like several surgeries. Then my dad all of a sudden couldn't walk, and he was in the hospital getting spinal surgery, and then he had surgery in his leg, but the cancer was spreading, and then he started chemo. The chemo was it was very strong, but his type of cancer was very aggressive. So we were very, very, very hopeful. I didn't think that my dad would pass away, to be honest. I know that was a possibility, but I didn't think that it was gonna happen. So very naively, I guess, even as a nurse, but my hope for my dad, was like, my dad's not gonna pass away, he's gonna get better, and the chemo's gonna work, and if that doesn't work, we'll try something new. But the chemo, like, really, he was already deteriorating. The chemo brought him down even more, and so I thought his side effects were from the chemo. I guess, yeah, they were. Like, a lot of his symptoms during that time was because of the chemo, but he just deteriorated really fast. He was still able to talk and everything, but little did we know that there was a tumor that was growing in his brain, so it had spread like that. But all of a sudden, we were at a family gathering on a Sunday. This was the last week of May, or maybe like the second to last week of May, and my dad was still there. So the last few days of his life, he was still with it. He was still talking, and I remember that my son, that it was a Sunday, my son went to my cousin's house, which is across the street from where my dad lives, and he was playing with my cousin's son, and he kind of like does like a soccer trick. I don't know what he was doing, but he falls backwards onto his arm and he breaks his clavicle. And I remember that I came to the house and I told my mom, and my dad was there, obviously, in his bed, and I was like, I have to go to the hospital because Liam just broke his arm, or his clavicle. And I was like, I'm sure it's broken. He can't move his arm, and it's like an excruciating pain. I think he broke it. And so my dad's like, yeah, go now. Like, he's like, that's so painful, because my dad had broken his clavicle too, so he knew like how painful it was. So he So he told me, like, you know, like his blessing and like making sure that everything was okay. I remember that night he called me like 4 or 5 times just to make sure that Liam was okay throughout the night. And that's, I think, the last time that I spoke to him like that. No, maybe the next day I called him and I asked him, like, everything was fine, you know. We got out of the hospital and then I told him that everything was okay. I think it was Monday, yeah, Monday, because it was like Sunday night, so we stayed in the hospital for a few hours, so it was like till Monday. And so I called him, I, you know, told him that everything was okay, he was gonna be fine. And then I think I briefly spoke to him on Tuesday, making sure that he was okay, and if he had eaten. And so from Tuesday night to Wednesday morning, my dad was unresponsive. His sister was staying over at his house. He slept over with him just to make sure that he was getting his meds, because he couldn't get up, right? So she was staying over to, you know, help him. And so she found him unresponsive. She called 911. They took him to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, I saw him and I just had a feeling, you know, like my dad wasn't there anymore. Like not alive, but just like things were going bad really quick. And I just knew. And then the doctors did tell us that he had a tumor in his brain, that it was growing and it was very infected with pus, and he was septic, basically. A really, really bad infection in his body now, and treatment and surgery for the tumor in his brain would be fatal, basically, because his body wouldn't be able to resist. So we knew that we had to make a decision whether we wanted him to stay in the hospital. And that day, they did admit him to the hospital. This was at Kaiser in Hollywood. And my dad was still able to open his eyes, and he still kind of knew who you were. At least me. This is like my perspective. He still knew who we were, and he would come like in and out of it. So he didn't look confused, but he just couldn't talk. He couldn't talk, and you can tell that he wanted to talk, and he just couldn't talk anymore. Something that there was like some confusion, but not total. And so he could open his eyes, like barely open his eyes now, and he couldn't talk, but I can tell that he wanted to tell us something. And I know that when he saw me, he kept looking at me. He wouldn't take his eyes off of me. This is in the hospital, like when I just saw him. And then he would close his eyes and then, you know, sleep for a long time and then wake up. You know, the family came and he would open his eyes and he would want to talk so bad. And I think like seeing him like that was really, really just really, really sad. And yeah, guys, I wanted to make this video short. I didn't want to make it too long, especially because I'm very crusty. But my dad suffered a lot, and his last days, I know he wanted to talk. He was not able to talk anymore, but we knew, like, just looking at his eyes when he was with it, and he would look at you would know, you know. And he knew that this was it. I feel like he knew it. He felt it. And just the whole thing, it was just very traumatic, guys. It was very traumatic. And I do talk about some other things you'll see here in a little bit. But my dad, like, I miss my dad every day. Like, it hasn't even been a year. And my grandma just did pass away too. And I might touch on that in the video, in the rest of the video. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to catch up from that first part that did not get filmed, and I thought it had. But okay. The angle of my video had to change because my camera died. So I got my phone to record, but basically what I was saying, and even the angle. But anyways, what I was saying was that we got to say our goodbyes, and I know that my dad had, you know, obviously my dad didn't want to die. My dad was hopeful that he would get better, although he said whatever God's will is God's will, but he wanted to live. And I feel like that's what gets me the most, because when I think about my dad and all the things that he wanted to do, he wanted to go to Hawaii, he wanted to go to New York, he wanted to go to Florida, with me and the kids. And I feel like he didn't get to do that. And I was like, it hurts. It hurts that he wasn't able to do what he wanted. But I know that he left in peace. I know that my dad left in peace. Everything about his passing was just so peaceful. And so the hospital gave us the option to take him home, to either have him pass at the hospital or take him home and have him pass at home. And so we decided that we would want him to pass at home. So we took him home, and he was still in and out of it, in a lot of pain. So they had put him on morphine and Ativan and some medications. But basically we were taking him home to allow him to pass naturally, in comfort and with his family. And so this was on a Wednesday. He was in the hospital Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturday, they brought him to his house. And so we had bought like a hospital bed, just a lot of things that he would need at home. Well, we already had a lot of things there anyway, but because after the nursing home, they had brought him home. So we had a lot of things to be able to like accommodate and to help him. So we had him there, we rearranged things, and my dad passed away like a couple days after. Okay, so he was at the hospital on a Wednesday, came home a Saturday or Sunday, and then passed away on a Wednesday. So it was like a complete week. So it was just like very, very fast, because he went from like being alert and being able to talk to us and laugh and joke, and although he was in pain and all that, and talk to us normally, to like a couple days after not talking, unresponsive, rushed to the emergency room, admitted, in and out of it, and taken to his house, and then he passed days later. Seeing my dad pass away, I had never seen somebody die. I mean, at work as a nurse, like a code blue, I've had those. But like, it's something that was quick. Like, it wasn't the same. Obviously, this is my dad, and at work, it's someone's dad. But the way that I had seen somebody pass away was different than seeing my dad pass away. Like, my dad's passing was slow. And obviously, like, I was a new nurse. I had never experienced the side of like, again, hospice, palliative care, where somebody is like slowly deteriorating and dying. I had never seen the end of life like that. And so not only like it was my dad, but like seeing somebody pass away, my dad pass away like that, taking his last breaths, like it was painful. And I know for my daughter, like before the hours before my dad passed away, like I'm gonna insert some pictures here where my daughter was just next to my dad. I feel like my kids didn't really, like, they knew that my dad was sick. They knew that he was sick, but they didn't think that grandpa was gonna pass away. Like their dad had just passed away 2 years before that. And so to hear that their grandpa was dying, like even hearing that, I feel like it didn't click until they saw him in the bed, and they saw us there and the way that we were talking. So I feel like the last hours before my dad passed away, so it was Tuesday night, and we had been there for days, and so my daughter just could not leave my dad's side. She was just next to him, holding his hand, holding his little, I forgot what he had on his chest or around his neck. It was like a necklace or something, I'm not sure. And she could just not leave his side and looking at him, and he couldn't take his eyes off of her. I know that Sophia was the reason why my dad like became very like closer to me, started coming around more to like family functions and family, like, no, my dad was not like very absent, but he was just like not very involved with a lot of the family things that we did. And I feel like when I had Sophia, like something changed in my dad, and obviously it made me closer to him. Just me and my dad were always together with my kids. It was just like me, him, and the kids all the time, like not even their dad, like me, my dad, and my kids. And so after I became a mom, like I became very close to my dad. We had kind of like not grown apart, but there was just like a lot of resentment, I feel, for my part. And although we were always close and he always looked, after me, and he always gave me advice and all the things, I feel like after I had Sophia, we became very close. And so I feel like Sophia was like his princess, like, yes, he was always with my boys, but Sophia was his princess. And so I feel like for Sophia, it was the hardest, seeing her grandpa die. So when she didn't really witness his last breath, so this is what happened. She was holding him and next to him for hours. I think it was like 4 hours. They wouldn't like stop looking at each other. My dad just like wouldn't even blink or turn away from her. And I feel like Sophia, I don't know if it was a feeling that she got or just like meant to be, but I was in the living room putting the boys to bed on the floor, and my cousin's babies on the floor, all the kids in the living room. I had like brought out a mat and like taken all the couch pillows out and kind of made, like an arrangement for the kids to sleep. And I remember I was just sitting in the couch by myself, just looking at the kids going to bed, going to sleep. And Sophia just came to sit next to me, and she had been sitting with my dad for hours, and she got on her phone and she couldn't go to sleep. So she was laying on the couch in the living room watching her phone. And this was just like 10 tops 15 minutes. When she sat down, I kind of hugged her and I told her that I would be back. I was going to go in the room to see how things were going. And when I go to the room, I see that the pulse ox that we had on my dad to monitor his heart rate and his oxygen were like coming on and off, on and off. And so I took it off and I put it on me, and I was like, it's working because it's detecting mine fine. But his was just in and out. And his body was still warm, his hands were still warm, but then his hands all of a sudden turned cold. And I told my family, it was my aunt, a cousin, my mom, one of his sisters, and 2 aunts. No, it was one of my aunts, well, 3 of my aunts, but so 2 of his sisters. One of my other aunts was my dad's brother's wife, and my cousin, me, and my mom. But my mom's hard of hearing, so I didn't want to tell her my dad's actually like actively dying right now, because I felt like she was gonna start yelling. And his mom, my dad's mom, was sleeping in the next room, and she had dementia, so we kind of didn't, and it's her son, so we didn't want her to like wake up like out of it and like see that her son was passing. So in that moment when my dad's like his hands just started going cold and his feet, and he just like, he had been staring at Sophia, he just stayed that way. He was just looking like, to the side. He wasn't moving his eyes anymore. And then his breathing became, it's called the death rattle if you're not in nursing, but his breathing started changing. And so me being the only one in the healthcare team, healthcare field, I kind of knew like what the process was of dying. Like I had never seen it, but I've known like kind of what the process was, right? So I kind of like told my family, I think this is it. Like he's leaving us. And so in that moment, I grabbed his hand and I laid on the floor, like with my knees, on my knees, and I started praying for him. And we all started praying in the room for him. And so we continued to pray until his last breath. And yeah, it was like around 2 in the morning. Now Wednesday, 2 in the morning. And I feel like I couldn't cry. I cried, but I couldn't cry yet. And so, um, and so, you know, we called our family and we told them that my dad had just passed away. We didn't wake his mom up. And we told my grandpa was still awake, and he, you know, he was crying. And my aunt, his older sister, which was like, they're the closest ones, close in age and very, very close. She started crying. She didn't want to let it out. She couldn't let it out, but she just felt so emotional. And then my mom, because she didn't know what was going on. She knew that the process was, you know, my dad was dying, but she kind of didn't know that it was happening in that moment. So I turned around and I told her, she was like on the other side of the room, and I told her my dad just passed away. And so she started crying, and, you know, I took him off the oxygen, and, you know, it was like around 2:15, around that time, when he passed away. And so, you know, his body laid there. It was just quiet. And then in that moment, when I took his oxygen off, my daughter comes in. It is just enough time for him to have passed away and take his last breath before she came in. And I feel like it was kind of meant to be. Like, I don't know if my dad was waiting. Like, it's just like so, it's just so like, I don't even know the right word to say. Like, it's just how things happen. Like, I don't think my dad wanted to have Sophia see him pass away. So it's like, it just so happens that when she got up and stayed in the living room for a little bit, that he decided to pass. Now, he didn't decide, but like, you know, that he passed away. And then she comes in and like, he's already passed, you know? And I just feel like it was meant for Sophia not to see that, because even as an adult and as a nurse that has seen things, like, it got to me, you know? So it's just like, I don't know how to describe it, how things happened. And so, you know, she broke down and kind of like, she couldn't believe that he passed away, you know? And so I closed my dad's eyes, and he was still in the bed in his blankets and just looked very, very peaceful. It was, I would say it wasn't, my dad didn't pass violently. Like, the noises that he was making with his chest, like, it was very, I've heard some stories where some people, like, the death rattle is very noisy and very like violent, like when they pass. But my dad, it was like, yeah, it was traumatic, but it was calm, if that makes any sense. I don't know. But the way that he passed was just very calm. And but I felt kind of traumatized. Like, I don't want to see my dad take his last breaths. You know, like, it's just like, you know, now that I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and I was then, like, I see life coming into this world, and it's incredible, and it's beautiful. And you're like, oh, baby, welcome to the world. You see them take their first breaths. You help them take their first breaths. And then I witnessed my dad taking his last breaths on this earth. And it's just like, wow, like this is life. Like, it's beautiful. And death is mysterious. And, you know, everybody dies in different ways. But it's like, wow, like, I'm able to see life. And then now I'm seeing my dad take his last breaths. And it's like, you know, like, it just like gives you a different perspective into faith and life and death and just all of that, you know? And so yeah, it hurt a lot to see my dad go, because I know he didn't want to pass away, but he is in a better place now, and he's resting, and he's no longer in pain. He's no longer in pain, and he suffered so much. And I know that he had a lot of faith, and I feel like that's what continues my faith too. And, you know, so I didn't want to wake up the boys and, you know, the family children. So when then they woke up, they, you know, we told them that, you know, their grandpa, their uncle had passed away. And it's not an easy thing, you know. It wasn't an easy thing till this day. Like, we miss my dad very, very much. And so a month later, I decided to take my daughter to Hawaii. But the reason why, okay, so the next morning after my dad passes away, they're coming to pick up his body. So I was told, like, I don't even remember how I even got to that point, but you know, my family was all in the room and I knew that they were gonna come pick him up. So I was like, kind of felt desperate. Like, I started feeling anxiety and desperate because I'm not gonna see my dad anymore. You know, of course we're gonna see him in the funeral services and the memorial, but like, my dad is gone. And I suddenly got like a wave of anxiety and desperation to have my dad back. And so I do remember like some parts where I like threw myself onto my dad's body and I was like yelling. I could feel myself yelling, but I can't hear myself. Like, I feel like, you know, when you cover your ears but you're yelling, like, you can't really hear yourself. And so I was yelling so loud that my ears like went numb and I couldn't hear myself. But everybody was like telling me after, you know, I was yelling because I didn't want my dad to pass away. And we had plans, you know, like, I had postponed Landon's, my youngest child's baptism, because I was like, when my dad gets better, when he starts walking, I'll make the party and he'll be there and he's gonna get better and we're gonna go to Disney World like he always wanted, and we're gonna go to Hawaii and we're gonna go to New York. We're gonna spend a few days in New York and we're gonna eat pizza and we're gonna just walk around the streets of New York like he always wanted. So he wanted to go to Florida, New York, and Hawaii, and you know, he didn't get to do that. So I felt like it hit my daughter the hardest. And so, like, out of the blue, a month later, I took her to Hawaii. And I know my daughter had a dream when we were in Hawaii that my dad was with us. Like, in her dream, my dad was with us on the beach. And he was laying down, like, sideways with his, like, you know, hand in his face and, like, looking at us in the water. And I was like, yeah, like, my dad would lay like that all the time. So I was like, that's a beautiful dream to have, like, in Hawaii. Like, I feel like we did it, you know, knowing that he was with us. And so like, a lot of things have transpired since then. And I know this video is super long and I don't know if you guys will be interested in this video, but basically my dad passed away, you know, last year in June. And so that's why I haven't been able to upload any videos and update you guys on anything, because I've just been kind of going through that grief process again, and with my kids and just working and still in labor and delivery. I love it. But yeah, guys, my dad passed away. And then recently, my grandma passed away too, his mom. And she was dealing with dementia and was just like not doing very well. And she passed away as well. 8 months after my dad passed away, my grandma passes away. And it's just been like back to back to back. I feel like a lot of things. But I had been meaning to make this video, and I made it 2 separate times. One like recently after he passed away, but I was too emotional. And I was so emotional that the video was super long. And then I tried to make it again, but I was just not feeling it. I was just feeling like it's not the right time until now. And so I feel more comfortable talking about it. And although it's very emotional, I know that my dad is in a better place. But yeah, guys, there's a lot of changes in my life happening and going to happen. And so I want to share with you guys a lot about labor and delivery too, and my experiences there and in life. But yeah, guys, this is a picture of us. You know, me and my dad and the kids. We were just like always together. This is Liam's birthday. Yeah, to my dad, I miss him so much. But yeah, guys, so Let me see if I can share another. There's like one particular picture that I love. But you know, like my dad, like we were always like at Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm and stuff like that, you know? And these books are from Chat Books. I have a lot, but they're only a year's worth. I think I want to get more because it's really, really nice. But yeah, guys, yeah, that's how I remember my dad. That's how I choose to remember my dad. I love my dad. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, hope to update you guys soon on other things. Bye.
Al recordarte, ojalá pudiera devolver el tiempo para verte de nuevo, para darte un abrazo y nunca soltarte. Mas comprendo que llegó tu tiempo, que Dios te ha llamado para estar a su lado. Así Él lo quiso, pero yo nunca pensé que doliera tanto.
Ya no llores por mí, yo estoy en un lugar lleno de luz, donde existe paz, donde no hay nada, donde puedo descansar. No llores por mí, es tan bello aquí, nunca imaginé. Quiero que seas feliz, que te vaya bien, y cuando te toque partir, espero verte aquí.
Yo te extrañaré, tenlo por seguro. ¿Cómo pensar que la vida puede terminar en un segundo? La vida es polvo, puede esparcirse en un momento. Nada traíste, nada te llevarás, solo lo que había dentro.